Hello friends, how are you today? Wow, we have massive chart energy today, and I'm going to combine talking about the chart changes with the energy for you guys because it's intense and I want to have time to tell the story of how this came about in the charts. And I may do a little inspired energy about how to create in this environment because I see it in the charts, the effects of how one creates. And I want to share that with you. Also, if you could like the video and subscribe and share it with your friends, it has been fantastic that you guys have been doing that. I really, really appreciate it. And it gets my work out to more people. In addition, it tells the AI to share it more on YouTube, and apparently it increases my monetization as well. So it's a way to pay me by just clicking a button. So thank you very much for your support. I really appreciate it. Okay, so this is today's chart, and the first thing I'd tell you is that we're missing data, and there's a pattern here that's repeating, and I think it's going to be interesting to see if we get to find out what this was. Maybe tomorrow morning we'll see. The most obvious thing on the chart here is that you have these incredible waves of energy that go through the entire chart and that really light up the lower part of the chart, which is higher hertz. So 40 is down here at the bottom and 0 is up at the top in this chart. So you've got basically a lot of lighting up here, and this has built over a period of days. The other interesting thing is these almost antenna-like structure here with this straight line and then almost like a cross here. And this occurs at about 20 in hertz. Right about here is the natural frequency, right where that hand is. That's about 7.83, the natural frequency of the Earth. So let me talk about this. But first, what I want to share with people who might be new is that the Schumann resonance is in a range here on the chart from 0 to 40 hertz. It's in the air around us, essentially. It goes from where the ground that our feet stand on up to the sky above us, okay, up into the atmosphere. This hertz range that is measurable of this non-physical energy in the air around us is the same hertz range as human brain waves. So when I talk about the chart, I interpret it different ways, and one of the ways is to look at what it means in terms of our brain waves and what we might be doing. But I also look at spiritual, physical effects and emotional effects, because it's a whole package, right? Our brain, our human body isn't only about our thoughts. So, and you know, I started recording this video at 11:11 today. Wasn't that cool? I just thought that was interesting. Okay, now to tell you the story of how this came about, okay, I want to go back a couple days. Now, if you go back and look at about March 2nd and March 3rd on the charts, now this is universal time. You have to add 7 to these hours to get the time on the charts, which is in Tomsk. Okay, so here's March 2nd and March 3rd, and we had some really big geomagnetic storms and disturbances, but it was very, very active. And it was interesting because on the chart at that time, there wasn't a lot of images on the chart. But there was these 2 lines that went the full vertical length of the chart. And what I noticed about these is I had intense emotions when this happened. And here's almost like a little target in the chart. You see there's almost a ball here. It's easier to see when it's smaller, but there's a ball of green energy and then surrounded by a blue space. It's almost like an oval or a bullseye look in the chart. And this was a sign to me that something interesting could be happening, okay, because of the bullseye, and because the chart mirrors human I feel that the images on the chart mirror human consciousness, and the chart mirrors human brainwaves. Well, this occurred at about 20 hertz, but it extended from the low teens up into the higher 20s. So that means that whatever this was that occurred, it occurred between our regular waking state into our thinking state, and then into our sort of more deeply analytical and integrating those thoughts into almost like a new view of the world. Okay, so that was really powerful, even though it didn't look like a lot on the chart, but it was really fascinating. And so I personally had such intense emotions here and here. Okay, so this is on Thursday, and so this is Wednesday, and then Tuesday, so earlier in the week. Okay. And it's interesting because there was also a skip in the technological effect, and I wondered if that affected us somehow, because you do have this seeming monitoring that's technological that may be going on in the background, and it disappears when you get big activity in the natural frequencies. So right after that bullseye in the chart, what we had was this incredible image. It almost looks like this really visually looks like a transmission. It almost looks like it's from here, it goes backwards through time, right? So let's see how it built. How it built was at first, in terms of brainwaves, okay, there were things that we were musing about, okay, after these two very intense emotional lines. And I say that because of my personal experience and some of the other things that were going on. But just to keep it short, we were musing here. Okay, so you have the light lit up here and the white resonance, and there's all this red and yellow energy. And there was very active yellow in the chart the last few days, which is the astral or fourth dimensional energies, the non-physical energies closest to the human in my view. And so we're musing about this. And then we light up in the alpha hertz, but the high alpha here. This is about 13. Yeah. Okay. And we light up in the high beta and even the gamma levels of hertz for those brain waves. Now this gamma is spiritual, okay, and that's lit up. Okay, all of these are lit up, but each one is lit independently. Then what happens is, so then we get the next few hours. In the next few hours, what happens is we start to make connections, and we make this kind of spike that connects. Now we're not up here in the integrative area of the brainwaves, but we pull our analysis together. So this was on the weekend, on Saturday. Not on Saturday, sorry, on Thursday, 2 days ago, right before the weekend. Okay, we pull our analysis together, and then we even have an insight that connects. It comes from the unconscious or the subconscious, but we experience it in our waking state. Okay, and then the next thing that happens is, so this comes in waves, 1, 2, and in the third one, what happens is the insights, whatever we're experiencing, get really integrated. There's a real connection, and it's live and active from the unconscious, subconscious to the alpha waves, super lit up here. Okay, and the white, not only, in my view, is expanded energy, bringing the light of transparency, but it also shows what's active on the chart. And the other thing that happens here is the green, which is, in my view, the human frequency, like the human, in general, human health, human activity. It lights up, and it even lights up the technological effect, which even the technological effect pulled back here. Wasn't that interesting? So it was a progression from unconscious and disconnected perceptions. We connect them at the lower brain waves, and then boom, we start to connect them all the way through, and they're just a little bit here now. Okay, there's just a hint of it here in the high beta and gamma, But in the alpha and beta, we have these insights, and then there's just all this activity. And I want to say something. I feel that we can be aware of the unconscious and subconscious in certain ways in our waking state. Let me explain how I feel that is. That is that when you're walking around during the day, when you're working, you have these thoughts and feelings in the back of your mind, even maybe spiritual experiences, okay? But you're going through the day, and there's kind of this running commentary in the back of your mind, or running sets of feelings you ping, ping, ping. But we don't consciously think about them. But if you start to watch yourself, okay, observe yourself, you'll notice this. And I know that most of you already know what I'm talking about. But as you observe, if you really put attention into observing this, what'll happen is you'll start to notice pattern after pattern. And at first, there's going to be a lot of different kinds of patterns, but what'll happen is a set of themes will rise up in awareness. And to me, that's this progression here when we bring our awareness. Now let's go to today's chart. Okay, so this is what we were just looking at. Okay, so then you get a space of rest. You get some more vertical lines, and then you get this interesting thing here, an image. And I said that it looked like, you know what it looked like? You know that claw with the M for, I think it's for a product. I think it's called Monster. Anyway, that's what it reminded me of, like the scary claw dragging itself, along. And so we see the shadow here. And that also occurs in, see, look where it's occurring here, in the lower levels of, from 0 to 4, and then from 4 to 8, so in the unconscious and in the subconscious. And right below our waking awareness. But, even in those times when we think we're unconscious, like we're sleeping, for example, last night, I had this spiritual experience where suddenly I just was struck by the light of my soul, and it just kind of went all through me, and then it was all like in a line, actually kind of like this. and then at the top above my head was this really super clear image of Jesus, actually. And it was of Jesus Christ, and it was just, I was sitting there like, whoa, this is so incredible. And then boom, I went back to sleep. So was that conscious or unconscious, right? Because it occurred during my sleep, but I had awareness of it. I went back to bed, and it kind of lives in that space where sometimes as I'm moving through the day, now it's late morning, I'm moving through, sometimes I completely forget it happened, but sometimes I remember it, and I'm like, I ping in on it, and I'm like, whoa, that was incredible. And that's kind of what we've got here, okay? So we repeat the 1, 2, 3, that pattern. Here, first we see the monster, and then we've got, 1, 2, 3 here. It's a little more broken up. It's not as clear as here. But now this is interesting. Then something else shows itself, okay, like here, okay? And then the pattern seems to start to repeat. Now, do you see what happened here? It was small, bigger, bigger, small, and then much bigger. And then this set is much bigger again. So I'm comparing this with this and this. Okay. Now, this to me is perceiving the shadow elements. Okay. So, and here we perceive the shadow element after we've had the awakening. Then in a less conscious state, we begin the pattern again. We perceive it, then we bring light to it, and then the whole process begins again. Well, this here, I'm relating to this. This here, I'm relating to seeing the monster here. And let me go back to this. So we had these intense emotions, right? And then we had this kind of bullseye here. And then we had this activity in the red here. But the seeing the monster was so much less together. We only could feel, okay? we only could feel what was going on. And there was a hint that something was going to form. We were going to have an awakening in our waking state, okay? So this, what I'm saying is that this pattern then became this pattern, which then became this pattern here. And now it's going to repeat. And you see how everything got closer together. So time is compressing as well. So that's why I say that it'd be really interesting to see what was in the missing data, because then we could see if this structure got really big. That's what it seems like would happen next, right? Because if this is a repetition, okay, because now we see the monster, and wow, all this light is now brought to it. And then there's going to be a repetition of us having insights, right? Look, here it is. There's the insights, even up to the high beta and lighting up in the gamma, okay? I'm comparing that with that. So you'd think that this area would get much bigger like this. Let's just pretend like this or something, right? Because if this area became this enlarged on the spectrogram, then what would have happened to this? Wouldn't it have just been like huge? So I'm just going to put it out there that it would be cool if we could see the data tomorrow morning, because I want to see what happened. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there was no pattern that was going to continue. Okay, I can accept that. But it would be cool to see. Now, that's the energy in the chart, and I just really quickly want to talk to you about energy work and inspired energy. How does this work? Well, here is this man, okay, and he's holding up a light, the light of 0 point. Another way to say this is he is putting a prayerful state out to the world. He's praying, connecting with God, and engaging with God in prayer about what's going on for himself and what's going on in his world, okay? Which in a way is one and the same thing. It could also be that he's meditating and holding a centered state, and from that centered state looking out at himself or looking out at his world, or both. Now let's go back to this chart here. Okay, so watch this. This is the bullseye. We bring our intention from a 0 point centered prayerful state, okay, and or, because they're all basically the same thing in a manner of speaking. We had intense emotions. We brought ourselves to a state, a prayerful state. There was an intention. What is going on? What is this about? And it was so strong, this intention was so strong that it went through all of our brainwaves, and even touching it. See that? See how it's even in the autonomic area. Okay, if you listen to my channel, you've heard me talk about this before. But usually this area is basically dark. There's no action there normally. But sometimes, and I believe that this is basically from our soul, like from deep, deep within us, because it touches the autonomic brain functions. From a place with no words, from the point of the connection of the soul, okay, this kind of cry came out. What is going on? And that is like bringing the light of awareness to something. When you hold up the 0 point in your own life, or when you hold it up in the world, this is a transformative energy. And how is that? Because a state of 0 point, a meditative state that's also completely centered, and a prayerful state in which one is alive in that God connection, okay, or the soul connection. In this state, the living essence of the divine is alive within you. And so when you look at your life, when you look out at the world, you are now in pure co-creation with the creator essence that enlivens you, with the divinity that you are able to embody within your own self, because you have a soul. Okay, because the creator gifts us with this. And we've risen enough in awareness. Okay, this is a dramatic, huge thing. We've risen enough in awareness over the decades to where we are now gifted with this ability to co-create with God, with the divine. Okay, one-to-one with the human. And this is why I tell you that being human is important. Okay, being human is important. There aren't many beings that can have this experience. If you look at life, okay, just look at life on this planet. We're a unique design. And it's my view that we are unique in the galaxy. Okay, we're unique in the universe. That's why there's so much attention focused on Earth. That's why there's so many unusual things happening and experiences and different kinds of beings and people that people interact with or that they notice. It's because we are a focus of intention, because we're important. And the reason why we're important is because we can do this. Okay? And we're now coming online where we can do this in a much more conscious way. Now, here is the trick. For this to be done, one's intentions in the mind, in the emotions, in the spirit, and in the physical will also need to be in alignment with divine will, expressed through you as a human, as your conscience guides you, as your guide and prompted from that wordless space from within. Okay, in alignment with divine will, in alignment with the highest good. What does that mean? So that's the subtlety here. You give it to God. God has the ultimate power and control. Divinity is what has the ultimate decision making about what's going to happen. And to be in such a state, a co-creative state, it requires one to make a conscious choice to choose to align in this way with the divine that you are, with the lit flame inside you that is the divinity, that is the soul that you are, the living temple, okay, of God on the earth, right? That houses the soul, the essence of the creator that you are. And if you can come into alignment, it used to be said to submit yourself to God, okay? But that's not what I'm talking about here, because that puts you in a hierarchy with God. And to properly do this requires one to understand that you are the light of the creator in a different form. Okay, you're not the almighty, all-powerful, all-seeing, all-knowing, omnipotent source, okay? Right? But you also are a spark of that in the human form, the living soul in the living human body. That is you. So, understanding these things and understanding that you are subject to divine law, when you accept that you're subject to divine law and that you operate within divine law, suddenly, like, all things become possible. Because when I make those realizations, then I am on the path. I walk the path of my living soul, what my living soul, an aspect of the Creator, wishes to do from within this human form with me, okay, who forgot who she was, right? Who cannot remember all that other good stuff, that good yummy stuff. but I get senses of it, right? Like I explained it from my spiritual experience last night, or I feel it in the air around me now. Because when I hold this, when I embody this 0 point state, this meditative centered state, this prayerful state in connection with God, okay? I can now, in co-creation, I can say what I want, right? I would like to see this created in the world. And then I give it to God if it's in alignment with the highest good. So that's what I do. And then I act as I'm prompted to act. And then I pray for the courage to, face whatever it is, to do whatever it is that I'm guided to do. Because sometimes being guided by one's soul and then walking the steps, right? Taking that first step forward, that you're inspired from within, that is what the true essence of who you are wants to do. Sometimes that can be scary, right? Because it might tell us something different than quote unquote society or our education or our multi-generational patterns or whatever it is, has told us. But we can also take the goodness from all those things and the loving support from all those things. Because all those things, right, society, education, multi-generations, were also created in part through the living God essence within the human, the living flame of light within the human, created all of that and all the goodness as well that comes with that, which ultimately comes from the divine, right? All glory to God is what people say. And that's what I'm talking about. So you can be humble before God, but also realize that you are a living soul that embodies that life essence. And once you do that, amazing things begin to happen, because here's what happens, okay? The man or the woman holds up the 0 point energy, and that creates this awakening. And then it creates this awakening. Oh, wow, I just had that. Now I can actually really see the monster or whatever it is. And then boom, I have all this. But you see, the human doesn't create this. The human works with the divine, sets the intention, embodies the state, and then this happens. Oh my God, it's incredible and beautiful. It's incredible, friends. I mean, the kind of life we have now, the kind of things we can create now. Don't let the chaos in the world distract you. Focus on that good stuff within and see it in the world also. That's what I've been working on doing. And let me tell you something. I want to explain to you something amazing that happened. I was, as a personal story, I walk, and I was, I find it hard to breathe with a mask on. Okay, I need more oxygen or whatever. I don't want to go into body details, but I like to breathe in the fresh air. And I also read all the rules for my state and county in terms of the lockdown, masks, and all that kind of stuff, because like other law-abiding citizens, I like to know what the rules are and follow them. And so I'm walking and I'm following the rules, okay, by not wearing a mask because I'm not around anyone. But there are all these people that are walking by me with masks on. And now this is going back a few weeks, okay? And I found myself just constantly grumbling. Oh my God, grumble, like the grumbles in the chart the other day. And so I realized that I was creating on one side of polarity, which empowers the other side, okay, of duality. I was taking a polarized position on one side of duality, which empowers a polarized position on the other side of duality, okay? And so watch my video called The 0 Point Solution for Your Political Aggravation if you want to understand that more, because I completely explain it there. So I decided that now that my conscious awareness came to that, I saw the monster, and the monster in part was me, right? Because I was creating unconsciously. And so I decided to hold the light of 0 point up to the monster. Okay, so now I started walking, and I started this on a Thursday or Friday. Okay, and now I'm walking, and I made a conscious choice not to have thoughts that were grumbling or emotions that were in the grumbling category. And as I pass people, I checked in with my heart. Should I acknowledge that person? Is there a resonance of light with them? If I got no, I just, kept, looking down or walking, or, I didn't look at them, because a lot of people, it's weird right now, a lot of people don't even want to really be looked at, it seems like, because I think they don't want to engage. And so it's a way of politely declining engagement. So but what I would do is I would just imagine that I had, just like this, that I had the 0 point in my hand, and I would first allow it to flame my field, because it feels like a flame, reverting all energy to neutral, a state of neutral, which is a state of unconditional love for myself. And then I would offer it to that person. Even if I got that they wanted no engagement, I just offered it silently as I walked. I just held it up, and I held it up to the masks because that's what I had an issue with, and that's what I needed to transform within myself, my own attitude about these things. And so I would just hold that up, in general, or I'd hold it up in front of the person as I passed, or I just intended for the highest good. I just intended that the 0 point be alive in this moment. The point of pure connection with soul, with the Creator, with the living divine light. That's it. And so every time I took a walk, this is what I did, and I stopped grumbling. And I kid you not, within 3 days, okay, Monday, I'm walking, and I'd say 50% less people were wearing masks. A lot less people. And then there were people who I first noticed it because I was in the grocery store where we're all wearing masks, and someone spoke to me that I didn't know. And I kid you not, it had been months since someone spoke to me in the grocery store that I didn't know, or even in general that I didn't know. It had been months. And after 3 days of doing this simple 0 point work, or, I could also have just enlivened prayer with God, okay? I could also have held a meditative centered state while I was walking. After only 3 days, a woman not only talked to me in the grocery store, but shared her recipe for Korean spare ribs with me, and showed me how to buy them and order them from the butcher, which was amazing. And they're really tasty, as I went home and made them right away. And then, I kid you not, another person I didn't know spoke to me. And then I'm walking, and less people are wearing masks, and it was like my whole world transformed. Okay, now did the world around me transform, or did I rise up to a new state of dimensional awareness? And in that dimensional state, people are acting in this way. It's like a layered reality, right? Where you can move from one reality to another. I don't know if you've ever noticed that. And it partly depends on your own energetic state of being. So anyway, I just wanted to share this with you. I want to share the beauty and the light that comes with wholeness, integration, making conscious choices, choosing to align with divine will as you perceive it through you. choosing to align with your own divinity, with your own soul, and just embodying love. It truly transforms the world. It truly transforms oneself. And it makes you feel really good too.